Just when you think that Matt Walsh wouldn't get any lower, right? Because, like, he accused Israel of attacking a church in Gaza on purpose, right? And he didn't apologize. He never apologized for that lie that we attacked the church on purpose. He didn't apologize for the lie that we desecrated a church in the West Bank either, right? So this guy, not only does he not apologize for the lie, and even if he didn't mean it to be a lie, he didn't correct his mistake. He doubled down, right? So it looks like he can't help it, but he wants to get on the Candace Owens train, right? Because he sees she's getting a lot of traction. I just don't know how much longer, before it will be before he invites Norman Finkelstein on, onto his thing, and before he'll get kicked off of the Daily Wire, because, he's also Christian, let's not forget. And now he's going to go and do a whole thing about how he'll do a whole series on how the popes that were colluded with Hitler and did the Concordat are somehow innocent, right? And so, like, this guy is a Christian, right? He's an American Christian. He seems to be good-natured, but he seems to be going along with the ancient church Christian ideology and theology of, anti-Semitism and accusing Jews of doing the unthinkable in Gaza, right? And so let's go and see what he has to say, right?
Turning to Israel, rather, not just the spy agency of Israel, but to the nation itself. Bibi...
Okay.
Turning to Mossad. Turning to Israel, rather, not just the spy agency of Israel, but to the nation itself. Bibi Netanyahu is reportedly going to occupy Gaza. And look, these are reports coming out of the Israeli press, out of the international press.
Oh, and don't worry. Guess what? We're gonna go and look at the comments in his comment section, and you'll see. Usually the people that comment in your comment section, if they are pro you, they will reflect who you are, right? So for instance, like on my channel, I'll have all these people that are commenting like pro my channel, right? And they usually reflect me because they are rational and they are kind and they are, they're not acting like Nazis, right? Here, this guy, you'll see in all his comments, we're going to go through them after this, and we'll go through who his supporters are, who the Christians are, right? So let's get on with it.
He is planning to propose fully reoccupying the Gaza Strip when he meets with his security cabinet. Mm-hmm. The die has been cast, according to local journalists, or according to a senior official quoted by local journalists. The die has been cast. We are going for the full conquest of the Gaza Strip and defeating Hamas. According to reports...
You have a problem with that?
The unnamed official said, if that doesn't work for the chief of staff of the army, of the Israeli army, then he should resign, because we're doing it. It's going in. We're not asking for advice.
What do you want to do? Should we just let the people of Gaza, govern themselves? You see what happened. You see what they've done. You see what they created in Gaza. Should we let them govern themselves? What is the answer, Michael? Since you know it all, right? What's the answer?
Anymore. We're going to go take Gaza. Now, also being reported, the families of hostages are worried that these plans could endanger their loved ones, because it's believed that 20 of the 50 supposed hostages in Gaza are still alive, 20 hostages who are alive. Polls suggest that 3 in 4 Israelis favor a ceasefire deal to return them. So 3 in 4 Israelis, the vast majority of Israelis, according to polls, would rather Israel not conquer the Gaza Strip, would rather Israel leave Hamas in power, but get a ceasefire deal to bring the hostages home.
Well, they're out of their minds, number one. Number two, it's irrational, right, to leave Hamas in power so that they can continue to plan another October 7 and to leave the bad guys in power. Like, what are we fighting for? What was the war about, right? Why did we, if we leave Hamas in power, then it means we lost the war, because the whole entire point of going to war was to crush Hamas and to get the hostages back, but that was secondary, right? Because, and another thing is, about a ceasefire. We've tried a ceasefire over and over again, and they broke it over and over again, and this time they are refusing to come to the table. Even Trump said that the Gazans, they want to die, like the Hamas, they want to die, because they're suicidal. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, they have a death wish, and also they're not going to the Gazan people who are part of Hamas. They will not, because they are suicidal and they have a death wish, and they are also fanatic, and they're Jew haters, and they're Nazi lovers, and they have Mein Kampf in the house, and they hate Jews, and every home there's anti-Semitic rhetoric in their home, pasted all over their homes, and we have evidence of that, right? So I know you non-Jews, like, you've never had somebody that acted bigoted against you and your life was never threatened for being an ethnicity. So you probably don't understand what it's like to have your life threatened on a daily basis, but okay, whatever. So Hamas at this point, they're not going to relinquish the hostages no matter what, because that's their ultimate bargaining chip, right? Once they relinquish the remainder of the hostages, they have nothing, they have no cards to play. They have no leverage over Israel. So they're not going to make any hostage deals. It's not happening. So any of the Israelis that are pro hostage deal and pro ceasefire, it's nonsense, because there's no one at the other side of the table. Besides, like, we shouldn't be negotiating with terrorists. You see what happens when you negotiate with terrorists, but again, it's like a very hard, difficult thing, right? Because Israel's not America, like, yeah, it's a very small society, so everybody knows everybody. So what do you do when your friends' children, or your friends are literally a hostage, right? Like, how would you feel? You'd probably try to give anything to get them back. But then again, leaving Hamas in power is suicidal. It's a suicide wish, and either way, those last hostages are doomed. And it's a very sad thing to tell the families, for the families that are living this, for the families that are actually going through this and they're experiencing this. And another thing is, like, you have, like, hostages families that are demanding that Israel give in, and in order to, they think that somehow they will get the hostages back. And then you have, like, soldiers, like, families who are willing to pay any price, even the price of the entire nation, to go to hell, right, in order to get the hostages back. They're willing to risk countless soldiers' lives in order to get the hostages back, right? So they're willing to let many soldiers die in order to get the hostages, right? Which is like, it's like, what it's like to have a child, your family member, taken hostage. Why would you want to put that pain? You know what it's like to lose a family member. Why would you want to put that pain on other people? Because you want to get your child back. It's on the one hand, okay, who am I to judge them? On the other hand, it's like, if you think about it logically, it's like, you know what it's like, so why would you want that inflicted on another person? But then again, it's a very difficult situation we have here in Israel, right? And there's a reason why our sages say, our Jewish sages say that you shouldn't be paying a higher price for what it's worth, right? So if there's a market, in the market, right, in the old days when the people would kidnap people and they would pay ransom, right? It used to be a thing in the old days where people would kidnap other people and they would hold them for ransom, and there was like a market price for it, right? A standard market price for it. And when they would ask for more from the Jews, a lot of the time they would try to extort the Jews. But there was one rabbi that was taken hostage, and they were ready, the Jewish community was willing to pay anything, but the rabbi said, don't you dare pay more than I'm worth, more than one person's worth, the going rate for an average person. Don't you dare pay more than that, because it's going to set a precedent. It's going to set a thing where people are going to think, oh, there's a market for this, right? Like, there's a market. Like, we can actually go and get more money from the Jews, right? So that's what's happening in Gaza, right? Where we paid for Gilad Shalit, who was taken hostage, and he was hostage for many years, and he was starved and all that. And I'm not sure who it was, Netanyahu. They released 1,000 terrorist prisoners who murdered Jewish people, and in terrorist attacks, they released them in exchange for Gilad Shalit. And so that it was overpaying the price, right? Like, it should have been 1 for 1, right? But Israel chose to pay the price, and now we paid for it with many more hostages, right? Many more hostages have been taken because there's a market for it now, right? It's a very hard situation, but that's the fact, right? There's a reason why, Stalin, for example, when his son was taken as prisoner of war, he refused to. There was an exchange, I'm not sure what it was. They said, oh, give us this or we'll kill your son. And he said, kill my son, right? Not to compare, right? Like, what happened with Stalin's son, who was prisoner of war, and why Stalin refused to pay what was the payment, right? Yakov Zudgashvili, Joseph Stalin's son, was a prisoner of war during World War II. Stalin refused to negotiate for his son's release or exchange him, even when the Nazis offered, because he viewed his son's capture as a personal failure and a sign of weakness. Right? So, not to use Stalin as an example, but, if the Jewish people would never go up and pay more than what is the price, then there would not be a market. They would know that we're not willing to pay, right? And then it would dampen the people's... people would understand it's not worth it to kidnap Jews because we're not going to pay, right? It's not a business, right? There's no business in there. So, what did the Germans want in exchange for Stalin's son? The Germans initially proposed exchanging Stalin's sons for a German general, right? So 1 for 1, right? So Stalin could have done that because it was just 1 for 1. It's not overpriced, right? But even that he refused. He refused to negotiate, even though he himself, the Germans are terrorists, right? But so is Stalin. But you get what I'm trying to say, right? Unless you're too stupid to understand. So let's continue on to see what this guy has to say.
The government, according to all these reports, including from Israeli media, says no. Even if the hostages are going to die, even if the moment we conquer Gaza, they're going to kill all the hostages, we have to do that. That's the better course.
Keep rubbing your nose, Mr. Michael. But it's not going to change the fact that Hamas is their last bargaining chip. They're never going to give it up. They're never going to give it up, even until they are going under. They're never going to give it up. And those hostages, it looks like it's no matter what happens, unless we go and rescue them somehow, there's no way there's going to be an exchange.
Of course. My question, I've had the least, in some ways it's the least popular view on the Israel-Gaza conflict, but in many ways I think it's the view of most Americans. It's the least popular view among the media and among activists and politicians. I think it is
because you're a little bigot and an anti-Semite.
The actual popular view among most Americans. Which is, I broadly have supported Israel. I get Netanyahu's reaction to October 7th, 2020.
I mean, Michael Knowles, do you have children? Let's think. Do you have children? What if Hamas came and did what they did to us to your child? What would you have done? Be honest, Michael Knowles, from your high horse, sitting in your high chair.
3. I do think that the Palestinian Arabs have certain rights. I do think that wars that begin in a just way can turn unjust.
You see, this is what we call condescension and patronization, right? As if the Jewish people want to abuse the Muslims living in Israel in some way, right? As if you have to lecture us in a scornful way and tell us how to govern our country. As if you would know how to govern them yourself. You and your high horse, I wonder how much longer it will take until you get kicked out of the Daily Wire, really.
I'm a little skeptical of the Israeli actions in the war. I'm deeply troubled by, for instance, that attack, accidental or otherwise, on the one Catholic church in Gaza.
You're an idiot, Michael Knowles. Why don't you apologize because it was an accident? And in a war zone, that's what happens. Instead of going full-on Nazi mode on the Jewish people, why don't you support us, right? And understand that in a war zone, and especially since the Gazan people, they are the ones who were persecuting the Gazan Christians, to the fact that there's only 1,000 Christians left in Gaza when there was I'm not sure exactly what the number was, but because they were persecuted, a lot of them, they were persecuted by the Muslims in Gaza. A lot of them immigrated, or they were kidnapped, or they were forcibly converted, or that's how they dwindled, or they were killed, right? And so you're going to go and accuse us of, and also about the church that you accused us of setting on fire in the West Bank, which was proven to be a blood libel, and you refused to apologize to Israel, the state, and the Jewish community, right? Because your lies that you helped spread about Jewish people lighting Gazan church on fire, which turned out to be a hoax, right? It's helping the Jewish community in America. Because of this blood libel, we are being attacked. So you need to apologize, right? But let's continue to hear what this little... I don't know what to say, because he seems like a decent guy, but then he goes scorched earth on Israel.
And some of the reports coming out of the West Bank, and maybe even the mission drift, the fact that this war was supposed to be to get the hostages home, punish Hamas, and yet it moved into bombing Iran, and maybe regime change in Iran, and occupying southern Syria, and all. I'm just a little skeptical. I want to know when the war is going to end, especially because we're funding it as Americans. That's my...
You little asshole. little sleaze, you know, like, as if you have any skin in the game, right? You're not funding this war, right? We had to pay our way. Since we were born in Israel, we had to pay our way. We had to, you Americans, you have a reason why you Americans want to be in a relationship with Israel is because without us, you are nothing in the Middle East, and you have no way to do any business with the Arabs and the Muslims here. And you benefit off of our medical advancements and our innovations and our inventions, and you benefit from our technology. You know it. You know you're dependent on us. And so where is your humility, Michael Knowles? How dare you, right? You should get on your knees and kiss our feet, Michael Knowles, and apologize to the Jewish community for being such a sleaze and standing with the Nazis against us. And then we're going to go into the comment section and see why his rhetoric, even though he's supposed to sound reasonable, how damaging it is.
My view. It's a complicated view. It's a nuanced view.
Yeah.
It doesn't make Bibi Netanyahu out to be the devil himself. It doesn't pretend that Hamas and the Islamists are in any way on our team or in any way admirable or to be tolerated. It recognizes that there is a distinction between combatants and civilians. I don't know. I know that's not popular in the world of punditry or political prognostication. I think that's where most Americans are. And so my reaction to this news, having that view, is, I don't know, what's the alternative? What's the alternative to conquest of the Gaza Strip? What Netanyahu is now saying is the objective of the war is the neutralization of Gaza as a political threat, as a security threat. That's it. And that's what I've been wondering. In order to have a just war, you have to, one, have clear military objectives.
He's right
and then
about
you need
that.
to have proportionality, which means...
No, in war, there's no proportion. In war, you crush the threat, no matter what it takes, right? You bomb the place until they are defeated and they surrender. That's the way you need to fight a war. There's no proportionality, one for one. That's ridiculous. If the idea of proportionality were a real thing, and people, if he really wanted it that way, then our soldiers should go and rape 1,000 Arab women, right? And men. And that would be proportionate. Our people should go and behead a certain amount of people that were beheaded by us. That's proportionality, right? And it was very clearly, right? I'm being distracted. I can't imagine. It's very clearly that, right? With this Douglas Murray, right? So what will he do? So it's very clearly with Douglas Murray, he made it very clear on what proportionality would actually mean, right? And so proportionality would mean that for every Jewish pregnant woman that was slaughtered, we should go and slaughter a Palestinian pregnant woman. Like, that's the idea of jerks and lunatics, like people with his mentality. And you have Jewish people that think in the same way, secular Jews who think they know better.
Not using excess military force to achieve those military objectives. And you need discrimination to discriminate between combatants and civilians, and you need all sorts of a just cause and a legitimate authority and all the rest. But you need proportionality, especially.
Okay.
And that means you need clear objectives. Netanyahu is saying...
No, that's not proportionality. That's not proportionality. I don't think this guy knows what he's saying.
Gaza proved itself to be an unacceptable security threat right on the border of Israel. We played this game. We used to control Gaza. A lot of people don't even know the history of Gaza, but we allowed Gaza to kind of run its own show, and it's proved itself to be an unacceptable security threat, so we're not going to let them continue to be run in the way that they're run. Okay, fine. That means it's not really about the hostages. It's not. It's about. Okay, fine. That means it's not. Okay, fine. That means it's an unacceptable security threat, so we're not going to let them continue to be run in the way that they're run. Okay, fine. That means it's not really about the hostages. It's not. It's about neutralizing Gaza. Well, in that case, what are they going to do other than occupy Gaza? They're going to just let Hamas keep running the show? No. They're going to have elections be held? You think some other group is going to get elected?
You have a problem with us occupying Gaza after all the war crimes that those criminal Gazan people did on us? Like, you're going to really... I'm dating this guy. Yeah, he's really funny.
So much better? I don't think so. I mean, before 1967, Gaza was controlled by Egypt. Okay. After the 1967 war, until 2005, Gaza was controlled by Israel, 2005, Israel decides, right, we're going to give Gaza to the Palestinians. They give it to the Palestinian Authority. That lasts until 2007. 2007, they hold elections. Hamas gets elected. 2023, Hamas rules through 2023. 2023, they attack Israeli civilians. Now Israel's going to go in and take it. Okay. I'm not saying that's wonderful. Oh, it's great that Israel's going to conquer Gaza. It certainly seems quite unfortunate that Gaza's also already basically been obliterated.
Do you feel bad for them, Michael Knowles? Do you feel bad for them? Why don't you go let the Gazans live in your house? How about that? Let Hamas come in your house. Let them, let them sleep next to your daughter's bed, right? Let them sleep next to your daughter's room. How about that, right? Yeah, but you need to marry me.
But I guess for the people who really hate Israel and Netanyahu, what's your solution?
Okay.
If you accept that Israel is a nation, is an actual nation, the Israeli government is a legitimate authority established by the United Nations and the War of Conquest and the Balfour Declaration, and it's just, if you believe that any modern nation state is a legitimate nation state, it's hard to argue how Israel is not a legitimate nation state. If you grant all of that, and you grant that Hamas is an unacceptable security risk in an independent Gaza, what's the alternative? Give me the alternative. I'm open. I think I'm like most Americans. I'm pretty open-minded on the issue.
So he's asking the anti-Semites, what's their... But the thing is, the anti-Semites, they don't really care. They don't believe that Israel has a right to exist. They don't believe in the Balfour Declaration. They think it's a mistake. They think that Israel should never have existed. They think that Israel belongs to Arabs, right? Like, one-state solution, Intifada revolution. So who are you appealing to, Michael Knowles?
What's the alternative? At least now there's a little bit of clarity on the war. And it's not a moment too soon, because as even another pretty right-wing former Israeli prime minister points out, Israel doesn't have any friends anymore. People are sick of this war, and Israel is becoming, in his words, a leper state.
Yeah, we have no friends, including you. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, part of it was reasonable, but now let's go and see the...
That was a good clip. Now...
Let's go and see the comment section, right? Okay, so someone says, sending love and prayers to the families of the hostages, and also the innocent civilians suffering on both sides. Still, find it weird how the most secure border was left unguarded for 2 hours. The polling Michael is citing is deeply problematic. The poll question was so vague when asked if they would want this war to end, with Hamas still in charge. The overwhelming majority of them says no. I'm just wondering how long until Knowles is out of Daily Wire and starting his own podcast. That's my question. This situation is definition of damned if you do, damned if you don't. Just do what you believe is right. See, the thing is, I got distracted, so I wanted to actually say what I think about, Michael Knowles, thinking that he knows better, right? What is the... So then you have an anti-Semite here. What is the alternative? Are you kidding? Right? Horrific take here, right? So, the majority of Americans think that there's a genocide in Gaza, right? Because they're idiots and they're anti-Semitic. So, of course, you accuse the Jews of drinking Christian blood and then genociding other people, right? Right? So this was his plan all along, right? Oh, this is the Jews' plan. They want to occupy Gaza. Providing starving people with uncooked food like beans, knowing it requires water to cook, while denying them access to water is deeply inhumane. Another lie, right? Like, the Gazan people are so fat. If you go on Instagram, you'll see how they are walking around complaining about food while they are extremely overweight. Then you have people who are pro-Hamas and the terrorists. It seems unfortunate that Gaza has been obliterated. Wow. Okay, so there are people they really believe, right? Free America from AIPAC, these anti-Semites. And these are people who follow him, very anti-Semitic, right? So then, right, he still hasn't apologized for what he said, right? So I thought I had more to say, right? But I got distracted by the guy I'm dating. He's very cute and all that. And we'll see what happens. Okay. Talk to you later.